in magnitude when you think about it. And this little model is ready to roll out nationwide. So why should we do this? I'm kind of reiterating this, but research that was done by a guy named Ron Gotzel out of University of Cornell, or Cornell University, proved that after evaluating the results of about 50,000 employees, multiple companies, that the return on investment at minimum is $2 for every $1 that's invested in this kind of intervention. So you could go to them and say, like I said to the jewelry company, why don't you just put me down and plan on spending $1,000 a month? It'll probably pay for itself. In fact, I can reassure you that if you pay $12,000, you'll get $24 back. In fact, you might get a multiple of that. 8 times $12,000 would be what? You know, about $100,000. So that's the kind of math that you can talk to business people and it makes sense to them, because realize that if you just lose one key employee, what's it cost to lose a key employee? You ask the average business person, do you know what they'll answer? If you lose a key employee, $30,000 to $50,000 to lose a key employee. Well, you're not even asking for that much, you're just asking for $12,000. And would it be a good bargain to invest 12 to save 30 to 50? And that's just for one key employee that's saved. What if you have a much larger organization? And what if you have divorces going on within the organization? So it's really rather easy to kind of justify what we're proposing. So I'm talking business now. On the business side, we exist to create economic value within corporate America as we leverage and build relational wellness. That's a term that I want you to put in your vocabulary, because hundreds of thousands of dollars are eventually going to be following people that are competent in speaking the language of relational wellness. So we do this through something called essential disciplines. Well, what's unique about essential disciplines? Well, this is what somebody looks like before they attend my or your presentation of essential disciplines. And after they finish, they look like this. It's actually my daughter, Hillary, who's a fan of essential disciplines. What makes essential disciplines unique? Well, the first thing is that it's reductionistic. It is universal and therefore transferable. I got out of graduate school and, you know, I studied clinical things, and I worked at a medical environment for about 5 years. And I saw that while people had various symptoms and issues and so forth, that quite often underneath the symptoms that they had were what I'd call a disturbed relationship. So seeing that, I started being mentored by people that I thought were the world's experts in respect to relationship technology. And then as I did that, though, I saw that there were all these competing theories out there and all these great books. And one day I'd start doing this particular project with somebody or solution, and that would be a good idea. And then I'd read the next book, and that'd be a good idea. And then I was concerned about how could I deal with accountability, you know, to make a change, and then it keeps with the person. And we all have gifts that differ, and I found that my gift is really one of looking at complex things and then making them simple. And so what happened eventually with me is that all these competing theories just kind of sorted themselves down to a simpler model. And the next phase that I went in then, because I was working quite often both with couples and people that were business owners, I figured out a way to make the same language and process work for both the business world as well as marriage. So it's just one kind of process that works both places. And then I was last challenged to do the same thing with teens. So again, the unique thing is that you learn one process, but then you're able to apply it multiple places. And that's part of the strength of it, because you don't need to learn 3 systems. You just need to learn one. And it enables you to have any particular theoretical bias that you have and still retain that, and the body of knowledge that you have and still retain that. It's kind of like a backbone or a skeleton that just organizes everything that you already have. So it doesn't need to be competing. It can be additive. The best metaphor that I have been able to identify that explains what we do, blending character development with interactive skills training, this landmark research on motivation, which again we'll talk more about what do I mean by these three major dimensions. But the best metaphor I've been able to identify is the, you know what this is? It is the iPhone. And so here on the iPhone, you know, we have a phone, but there's also the iPod where you can play all this music, and then you can access the web and you can do your email. There's a map function so you can do navigation. So people used to have, they'd have their cell phone, right? And then they'd have their Palm Pilot, and then they would have their iPod. So 3 different instruments. So the creative and innovative people at Mac and Apple said, let's just combine these all into one thing. And so the brilliance of this is that as you become familiar with navigating on this one instrument, you then have a methodology for navigating on all of them. And people that start doing this say they can't imagine how they ever approached this before because it's so simple this way. And so that's how Essential Disciplines work. It really teaches you how to navigate 3 different systems effortlessly. So what is it that we're actually navigating? It's called consistent user interface. And there are 3 worlds that we navigate, 3 times, and 2 choices. By the way, having mentioned business, let me back up and just say that in your folders you'll see that we have case studies that we did of the Better Business Bureau as well as the case study of Ohio Department of Education, and you can read through those at your leisure to get a little more in depth about that. It's over on the left side of your folder. But let's look at this. What are the 3 worlds? What would you guess that the 3 worlds are that we focus on? Self, others, and the situation. And then there are 3 times that we concentrate on. Those times are past, present, and future. And then there's really 2 choices. The choice between whole and broken. Basically, it's this kind of question. Am I going to be good? Am I going to be bad?